All right, so moving into the, we've got the Bills covered, we've got the Dolphins covered. Now let's get into the New York Jets. The Aaron Rodgers era is over.
Thank God.
A new look at the Jets team. A lot of movement in the off season. Obviously, I think a lot of Jets fans are entering the season very skeptical. I think at this point, considering I am a Jets fan, so I think I'm included there. What we've been through these past couple of years is given us a lot of reason to be skeptical, not really kind of count our chickens before they've hatched. But overall, I like a lot of the moves that have been made so far this offseason, namely the hiring of Coach Aaron Glenn. Could you talk about, I think a lot of the Jets struggles have started at the head coach position. And can you kind of talk about where this hiring has kind of been a good move to start getting, Jets fans, in the right headspace for this season?
Absolutely. And I kind of want to open it up with a point that there are some coaches who are awesome coordinators and bad head coaches. And there are some coaches who are good to great coordinators and are even better head coaches. And I think Aaron Glenn is going to be one of those guys who falls into the latter of that category. He's a tone setter. I think he was a great hire. Multiple players, most notably Elijah Vera Tucker, who's been with the Jets since 2020 or even 2019. I might have that wrong. He's been with the Jets for a while. He came out and said that there's a lot more accountability in the previous regime, that they're being pushed a lot more. If you look at the Jets social media over the past couple of years, they've done the fun, every team's doing the big social media thing, but they do fun challenges with the players after practice, or they put something on a board that's a hypothetical, 100 men versus one gorilla was the big debate this winter, right? They would put stuff like that on their board to ask the players when they're leaving a practice or a lift or whatever. There's barely been any of that. There's no added bullshit unless they're just looking to get clicks or they need some form of traction to engage with the fans, right? It's been almost exclusively true football content. And I think that's a top-down view. I think that's what they're trying to transform this team to. Is no longer the laughing stock of the NFL. They want to be serious and they want to be treated seriously like they were in 2009 and 2010, right? Back in the Rex Ryan days.
Yeah.
And he is already coming from a culture of a team that was hapless and was considered one of the worst teams in the NFL in the entire history of the NFL. And now they're Super Bowl contenders. And he was a massive piece of that, transforming that defense into constantly being bad to, despite having more than half their starters hurt, one of the top defenses in the league the past few years. And I think that's really what he brings in, is that he's able to maximize talent regardless of what the roster looks like. And I think he's going to be able to do that with the Jets, with some of the free agents he's brought in, some of the draft picks they've made, some of the coaches they've hired, and just in general, what he's going to be able to do. And the last point I want to make is the Lions by week 17 last year, 6 starters were on IR, and 5 other contributors were on IR, all on the defensive side of the ball. They had 13 players total from the defensive side on IR by week 17. And that includes Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone, Carlton Davis, who was supposed to be the cornerback one on that team, Ennis Rakestraw, who was supposed to be their nickel corner as a rookie, and he's hurt again, which we'll talk about Ennis next episode. But he had a lot of key players that he wanted to use in unique and fun ways to make this defense maximized, all get hurt. So he had practice squad players on this defense coming out, and he was putting them in favorable situations and maximizing their talent. And he was able to do it all in almost exclusively man coverage. So now you come to the Jets, who have one of the best man corners in the NFL, have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL, a really good core of linebackers at an NFL level. He's going to have so much fun with this defense, and I think the offense is going to feed off of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the big offensive acquisitions this year, obviously, quarterback Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting move for the Jets. Obviously, Justin Fields, he's had his struggles in this league. He's had his struggles in Chicago. But I think if I could, talk from a fan's perspective, it's nice to see the Jets acquiring a quarterback that has NFL experience that's also not in his like mid to late 30s. That's no offense to any quarterbacks in their mid to late 30s, but it's nice to know that this is kind of seen as a move not only to just get some talent immediately that you don't have to develop, which, let's be honest, if we've looked at the past decade, like I think the jury's out. The Jets have struggled to develop rookie quarterbacks into franchise quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. But the Aaron Rodgers move, if I could bring that up one more time, that was seen as kind of a get right until you look to the future move. No matter, what we thought before we saw what happened with the team, like that, we knew that Jets fans were only going to be able to see 1, 2, maybe 3 years of Aaron Rodgers. But with Justin Fields, he's already developed. He's a high quality quarterback, and the Jets can have him for a considerable amount of time. Mm-hmm. It's also important because you have, the other thing too with these tricky quarterback situations is I feel like with the Jets, you have these targets on offense that are really high talent that the Jets have drafted, namely Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, that you want to make sure are in a comfortable position for the long term before they just go somewhere else. Because that's kind of the worst thing is seeing, for any fan in any sport, is seeing young, extremely entertaining talent go somewhere else just because they cannot be developed right, and then you kind of lose who could be your franchise guys. So for you, talking about the Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson connection this season, what do you expect to see?
I expect to see Garrett Williams go for over 1,000 yards again. This is a proven pairing, right? And this was when Garrett Wilson was 18, 19 years old. So he wasn't Garrett Wilson, potential all-pro caliber player in the NFL, right? I'm just going to go over their 2 seasons they played together at Ohio State. They played 22 games. Garrett Wilson had 1,155 receiving yards, or 52.5 per game, and 11 touchdowns, which is decent. He had 90.4 receiving yards per game in 2020, which is when he started to take that next step and started to get more snaps. In that span, he had 5 games with over 100 yards, and 4 of those came in that 2020 season. He averaged 4.4 yards after catch per reception. He had a 40% contested catch rate, which you're looking for 40 to 50 in the NFL from a wide receiver 1. So he already fit that bill when he was, still developing. And he had 2.53 yards per route run. 3 is elite, 2 is kind of average, 2.53 is really good. You want to see that. And granted, yes, it's college. The competition isn't as good as it was in the NFL, but Garrett Wilson was not nearly as polished as a receiver as he is now, where he's in that top 10 receiver territory. And he's proven it with bad QB play through his first couple of years in the NFL.
Yep.
Where I struggle with is Justin Fields. Now, last year he did pretty decent as a passer, but that Steelers offense did better once Russell Wilson came in. And you don't want to be in a conversation of, well, Russell Wilson is better at me at this point in his career. In my mind, if that's the case, you're probably never going to break through and develop the way you're supposed to as an NFL quarterback. But if anyone can make that happen, it's Aaron Glenn, because Jared Goff was looking like a bust after he got traded to the Lions, but Dan Campbell revived his career. I think Aaron Glenn can kind of do the same with Justin Fields. Former top-tier first-round pick. He's an ultra athlete compared to Jared Goff, who's like an okay athlete. He has a bigger arm than Jared Goff, where Goff has more of the nuance in the short to intermediate game, and he's better at layering passes. So if Aaron Glenn can tap into the traits that Justin Fields shines in and taking advantage of his deep ball passing, which Garrett Wilson did an awesome job of when they were at Ohio State together, use his athleticism in tandem with a sick running back room of Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen, who looks much more juiced up last year than this year than last year.
Yep.
And if they really dive into that, I think this offense can do something. Now, the problem is who are they going to go to besides Justin Fields and Breece Hall? They drafted Mason Taylor, who was a decent tight end coming out of LSU, and they have Jeremy Rucker backing him up. Long Island represent, Strong Island. Then you have Josh Reynolds, who's proven he's a capable wide receiver too, but he's not going to push the envelope. Malachi Corley is fighting for a roster spot, which I loved Malachi in college. So it sucks that he's kind of fighting for a roster spot at this point. But outside of that, there's not really a third or fourth option in this offense, or excuse me, a fourth option in this offense outside of Garrett Wilson, a mix of Mason Taylor or Jeremy Ruckert. So I don't really know if we can count that as the third option, but Breece Hall and Josh Reynolds are going to be fighting for the second most targets. And when your running back might be your second most targeted player, that's signs of you need a better receiving room. And it's nothing against Breece Hall. He's a good player, but that's not someone you should be targeting the second most in this offense. There's no running back besides maybe Christian McCaffrey that you should be targeting the second most on any given offense, right? So if he can't take that next step and become a passer who can just stick to his wide receiver one and then progress to other receivers when he's blanketed, if he can't do that, the Jets are going to be looking at a quarterback, maybe not next year, but maybe 2027. Maybe they try it one more time with Justin Fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the college pairing, obviously that's one of those things that happens a lot in football, happens a lot in basketball, where two guys who played together in college and succeeded in college, they come together in the pros, and the natural first reaction is for people to get hyped. It's like, oh my God, we're going to see this connection one more time. It was so great. But like you said, the competition's different. People are at different points in their lives. You know what I mean? They're at different points in their personal and professional relationships with each other. And so things could change. And we've seen a wide range of how successful or unsuccessful these pairings could be. So if you could kind of give Jets fans a little outlook on what they should want from this pairing, I was curious to know if there are any college to pro teammates that you would like the Jets to, look to as an example, and then maybe a pairing that they would like to avoid being like in what you've seen in the NFL.
First one that comes to mind is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I think that's the epitome of college teammates excelling and just, Jamar Chase is the second best receiver in the NFL. Justin Jefferson is still number one. No one can argue that.
Yeah.
As much as people want to. We're at that point in the offseason, people will just argue anything, right? But to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are incredible together. Jamar Chase just won the Triple Crown, which I think is kind of going under the radar because we had Saquon Barkley had the year that he had. But he would have won Offensive Player of the Year if not for what Saquon did. And then you have kind of not the bottom of that, but like kind of an outcome you don't want is Tua and Jalen Waddle. And again, no discredit to them as players, no discredit to them and what they bring as athletes and as players. But in terms of their connection, you want more than what's kind of happened between Waddle and Tua. And yes, Waddle's dealt with some injuries here and there, but I think you need to be better than them in order for this offense to take that next step and for Justin Fields to take that next step. Because if your goal is to be Waddle and Tua, that's a bad goal to have in terms of an NFL QB and wide receiver relationship. If that's your goal, you want to exceed your goal, right? Like, so if they want low-hanging fruit and they're looking to keep Justin Fields around for 2 to 3 years, regardless of how this season goes, yeah, sure, that could be your goal, but I don't think the Jets want that. I think they have a really good roster. I don't think they're a true playoff pushing roster, but I think they could make a wild card spot if things play out right in their schedule and other team schedules. And I think a lot of that's going to hang on Justin Fields needing to push this offense in ways that we haven't seen this offense be pushed since the pre-Zach Wilson days.
Yeah. It's very interesting that all three of those pairings, Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Tua and Jalen Waddle, all are, when they were in college, were all kind of in the latter half of the 4-team college football playoff era. I wonder if that, I can't tell you what that says about how NFL teams build their rosters and how, like, the trend of a lot of college pairings existing in the NFL right now. But I feel like it's got to say something. Maybe we'll look at that at a later pod.
I think so. But here's the other thing. They all made college championship games.
Yeah, that's true.
Pairings. There's something to be spoken about that as well.
Yeah. Let's get into the Jets' dark horse, linebacker Jamien Sherwood.
Mm-hmm.
What do you love about this guy?
I just love how he fits into this defense. Now, granted, we'll see how he fits into Aaron Glenn's scheme, but I think he's going to like him as a coverage backer and let Quincy Williams come downhill and handle the run game because Quincy has gotten better and better every year that he's been in the NFL and is one of the top 10 linebackers in the NFL today. Jamien Sherwood is a really good pairing next to him because he brings – Quincy is a great coverage linebacker, so Jamien gets to kind of feast in coverage too because teams aren't going to look his way. They're going to look at Jamien, and guess what? Jamien's good in coverage too. If we just look at some of the PFF grades, right, he was 10th in overall defense grade, and this is among 64 linebackers with at least 500 snaps. So 10th in defensive grade, he's in the top quarter. 15th in run defense grade, in the top quarter. 12th in coverage grade, in the top fifth. And same thing with run defense grade. He was tied 16th in lowest receiving rate allowed, top quarter of linebackers. 14th lowest passer rating around, top quarter of linebackers. We're looking at a guy who is one of the better linebackers in the league, if not pushing to be great linebacker in this league, in a league where linebacker play is kind of attributed to tackles and tackles for loss, which there's a lot more nuance that goes into the linebacker position, and people overvalue players like Bobby Wagner, Nick Bolton, Fosoye Aluakan on the Jaguars, right? Like they overvalue it because they make a lot of tackles when that's not the case. That's not their only job. More often than not, they're going to be in coverage, and that's really what you should be looking at. And Jamien has showed he's not only a damn good coverage linebacker, he's really good against the run as well. So I think he's going to have an even bigger breakout year than last year. I think people are starting to realize how good he is. And I think if he takes this next step going into 2025, we could be looking at a top 5 linebacker duo of Quincy and Jamien going into 2026.
Yeah. And my final question, Jordan, it comes from, honestly, I asked this from deep within my soul. Where can the Jets fans find hope for 2025?
Aaron Glenn, you just have to trust him. You have to trust that he's going to right the ship and bring accountability that has not been in this organization since the Rex Ryan days. I know he's polarizing, but man, he had those guys playing hard, fast, and physical every single day and every single moment they stepped on the field. And I think that's what you can get out of Aaron Glenn and have a little bit more polish, a little more against bullshit and distractions, and an actual strong defensive-minded scheming coach. Now, Rex Ryan was great at defense. I think in today's NFL, Aaron Glenn is one of the best defensive-minded coaches that we have out there. And I think that's going to echo throughout the entire organization. So don't lose hope if 2025 does not go well. I think they will be competitive, which is what you want for a team like the Jets right now. I think 2026, 2027, if you're still not competitive and you're not pushing for playoffs, that's when you can hit the panic button.
Yeah. Fair. I think that's a fair analysis. I feel like, not to be that guy, but I feel like we're in this first year of a cycle that I've seen a lot in the past decade, but it's a part of the cycle that I'm always ready to be a bit hopeful for.